A little Q&A for one of the wrestlers that I get to work with at Rutgers. Also worked with him in high school. So he's got a leadership interview sent to me and how it relates to coaching and basically running the underground strength gym and the online stuff with the Strong Life Academy. So let's check it out. How would you describe your leadership style, and why do you think it is an effective style? Number one, I honestly don't find myself the best leader in my eyes, although the famous saying, leaders create more leaders, that's what I believe in. For example, this week I sent out a video because I don't really hold meetings for the coaches at the Underground Strength Gym because we're pretty far apart. Everybody works part-time hours, although I always tell them, even though we work part-time hours, I still expect full-time heart, commitment, and effort when you're with those athletes and your ability to learn. So maybe that is being a good leader. A boss kind of says, do this, do A, B, C, do X, Y, Z. Whereas as coming from a leadership role, I want to represent what we do, live the code, and basically say, listen, I don't want to manage you. I'm giving you the opportunity and trusting you to put all your heart into this, to be great. So that's my style. Does it always work? No, because more and more than ever before, especially the younger generation growing up like yourself, is that in your high school years, coaches and teachers are afraid to be stern with you because they'll get reprimanded, right? So I basically do not apologize for excellence. I say go all in all the time. Do I think it's effective or not? I don't know, to be honest with you. What I do know is that in my heart, I don't want to have to inspire and motivate people. I want them to learn the importance of finding that out from within their own heart. So my style of leadership is more, I'm going to be in the fire with you. I'm not going to tell you to do something when I don't do it myself. Next question. How would you describe yourself as a task-oriented leader, or would you describe yourself as a task-oriented leader or relationship-oriented leader? A little bit of both. Number one, tasks is I give a general framework of, hey, here's the things we need to do. Here's the things we need to accomplish. Relationship-wise, I say, here's different ways we could do things. And in doing so, we build trust in one another. I'm not saying this is the only way. I'm saying, hey, look, this is how we can do it. Here are multiple ways to achieve this task. Or even when I'm training you guys, I might say, guys, today we're going to do 5 sets of squats, but every set's going to be different. I want you to feel out how heavy you want to go. So if you felt like you've been out-muscled, go heavier. If you feel like you're not explosive enough, go lighter, focus on speed. So I give you guys the opportunity to kind of feel what you need, and that gets you guys to maybe a little bit more so believe and say, wow, he realizes we're all different, that we all don't get, the same training, and we all don't get the same feedback. So to me, what's most important in the relationship is to genuinely care about whatever it is you're doing, the coaching, the running of the business, if you're a teacher. I think if you genuinely care, you find a way versus saying, I'm only this way. So I do a little bit of task-oriented stuff as well as relationship work. What is the vision for the organization? The big picture would be to take my training system, the style of training, from the Underground Strength Gym and get it into high schools and middle schools all around America, if not all around the world. And the way I look at it is more of a Strong Life Academy where we're building the character, we're creating leaders, confidence, work ethic, accountability, responsibility. We're doing that through the avenue of what people would call strength and conditioning. I call it strength and performance because it's performance of the body, performance of the mind that equates to performance in the real world. We got some questions saying, what's the best way for a parent to lead a high school athlete now that they have coaches they're following? Well, parents have to do a great job of finding great mentors for their kids. I'm in that situation now. Not that my kids are in high school. They got a couple years for that. But I'm very careful about who I let in their life to coach them and teach them. Just as I have expectations of the coaches that are on the Underground Strength team, same thing for myself. Be great. So the vision is to not just have a location where people have to come, but it becomes part of a school curriculum and even a state, part of like the state education. So the New Jersey Education Association buys into this, and we create that curriculum that gets implanted into the schools, and I'm teaching teachers and coaches how to implement this. And that way it's in their school, and because the main thing is, I see why we don't get kids. Convenience, parents don't want to drive. Number two, finances. Some parents think that it's too expensive or too much money, even though they might take 4 or 5 times that amount of money and invest it in or spend it on alcohol and fancier cars that they don't need. So my values are different than their values. I value being strong in mind, body, and life because I know what it can do as well as what the way it hurts people if they are weak. So my vision is get it into the schools. What symbols, language, and behaviors do you use to communicate this vision? We have a logo, although I think that logo more so intimidates people than inspires them. It's an old logo of a guy flipping a tire. Language and behaviors, I think that it's super important to motivate and inspire people and educate, to blend it all together so that you teach them how to do it, and then you give them the opportunity and also inspire them to do work on their own. Communication, I utilize a lot of different methods and means. So right now this is going on YouTube. I use Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Basically, wherever the consumer is, that's where we need to be to inspire them. And the behaviors, it has to be challenging. A famous, business coach, entrepreneurial mentor, Gene Landrum, said that, when he studied all these successful people, he goes, they all had to break down before they had to break through, meaning we've got to break ourselves down before we break through and do something greater and more successful. How do you set the tone in your organization? Promote norms, standards of excellence, etc. Number one is, Gandhi says, be the change that you want to see in others. So I can't tell other coaches to bring the energy, to coach with a lot of passion and attention to detail and excellence, the relentless pursuit of excellence, unless I do it. So I have to lead from the front. And that's something I actually got. Here's a very old book, very old. I probably read this guy's first book when I was 18. His name's Dick Marcinko. He was actually the guy who created SEAL Team 6. And he was basically, they called him the Rogue Warrior because he did a lot of, unconventional warfare. And his leadership secrets were all about, I won't expect you to do anything unless you do it yourself. And I believe right from the beginning, he has kind of the, he's got the 10 Commandments. He's got the 10 Commandments of leadership. So here, he built everybody they partied hard, they trained hard, they did everything to the extreme. This is old. I'm going to recommend you get it. So, thou shalt keep it simple, stupid. Thou hast not to like it, thou hast just to do it. I shall punish thy bodies, because the more thou sweatest in training, the less thou bleedest in combat. I will treat you all alike, just like shit. I don't believe in that. I think you have to treat people great. But I think in running a business, I've learned that you can't inspire, motivate people through money. They have to have meaning and belief in what you're doing and be on a greater mission. So we've had coaches that come and go. We've had coaches that might go because they're opening their own business. Others go because they realize, wow, that is such a freaking hard business and it's very unforgiving. I'm just going to go and get a quote-unquote normal job. So it is very hard setting the tone, but you have to basically have what are those core values. And for us, the kids are number one, and it's a very black and white thing. Is it better for the kids? Yes, do that. Is it not better for the kids? Don't do that. And it has to obviously be ethical and legal, but everything is about the kids. It doesn't matter if your girlfriend cheated on you, you lost your job, you show up, you put your problems in your back pocket, you give these kids all your heart. When you're done training them, you should leave exhausted because you put all your heart into training them. So I'm very tough on the coaches, and I'm not forgiving. I used to be kind of like afraid, not afraid, but a little bit soft when I would say what my expectations were. Now I just say, hey, be fucking awesome. And if you're not fucking awesome, get out of here. You don't deserve to train those kids. Because when my kids are being trained by somebody who I pay a lot more money than I get paid when I'm training people, I want them to be great. I don't want them giving my kids crappy energy, crappy technique, being on their cell phone. So all in, all the time. Great book. I want you to read that, Brett. And I would give it to you. But here's another thing. I want you to go on Amazon and buy it used. You could probably get it for like $2 or $3 used and $5-6. I found that when we give people stuff, they oftentimes don't respect it. Here's another great book, Turning Pro. Basically, you have 2 times in your life. You have the time of life where you're an amateur, and then when you become a pro, life is totally different. This is one of my favorite books called Winners Never Cheat, Even During Difficult Times. This guy's a multi-billionaire, and some of my favorite stories is when he's in the middle of a business deal and there's $100-200 million on the line, and he's in the middle of a business deal and his partner's father or family member gets sick. He says to the guy, listen, don't worry about this. You take care of family. Family first. Here's your $100 million that you already gave me. He gave the guy back all the money. And here's how that works with me. At the Underground Strength Gym, and most gyms, they have like a policy if you're going to cancel. Give us a 30-day notice, write it to us, etc. Let's say somebody trained, or let's say it's now December. Today is December 2nd. But let's say they didn't show up, or they send an email and they're not happy with stuff, but they trained all of November. I will refund all of their money for November, even though they trained. So that means I lost the money. That means I broke our policy of refunds. They didn't give us proper notice. But I never, ever want to be painted into a corner where I owe anybody anything. I will sleep in the woods before I do that. So I refund the money so you never owe anybody anything. Ever. Okay, how do you deal with groups in a team setting? So number one, I've learned that, and I've said this to you guys, I take the Parkway to work each morning, and it's pretty amazing how one car could back up 30 or 40 cars. One car driving slow or slightly, out of the traffic rules can destroy the whole group. So instead of me being nice and pretty about it, I try to take the lessons I've learned from the military books, especially Special Forces, where everything is about team first. It has nothing to do with me. You want to make yourself better? Make the team better. So I have no problem calling somebody out in a group, but I'll also speak with that person one-on-one. I'll send text messages. I'll try to educate, inspire, and give them the opportunity to do the work, because if you force somebody to do the work, they don't own it, and they're not going to be successful from that. So I'm not sure if the question was written correctly. It says, how do you deal without groups in a team setting? I'm assuming that says, how do you deal with groups in a team setting? So within a team, there's always like little cliques of guys working together, and the person who has the poor energy, the negative energy, it has to be nipped in the bud immediately. And if that person is basically cancerous to the group, then I will remove that person, because I will not allow one person to mess up the opportunity for 95 or 90% of the rest of the group. Next question, what are the major obstacles, challenges you have or are encountering? I'd say the past few years, there's so much misinformation that parents don't know the difference between the lifting happening, by a weight room supervisor versus somebody like myself, versus, training in mom or dad's basement. They just don't know the difference. And I spend probably up to 4 or 5 hours a day putting out all that content, articles, videos, Twitter, Facebook, podcasts, trying to educate the parents and the coaches so they can put their trust in us and say, that is the expert. Underground Strength Gym, Strong Life, those are the experts. Let's go there. So it's been extremely challenging. Also, because there's so many more strength coaches, parents don't know that there's a difference. For example, we wrestle in the Division One. In Division One, forget Big Ten. We are Division One wrestling. Well, I don't know how many teams there are, but we're in the top 10. Well, if we're all Division One, why aren't we equal? Different skill, strength, speed, coaching, all these things come into play, and that's why there's other teams that are better than others. That's the way strength coaches are. But in this world, think about Amazon, think about your phone. People want access to everything quickly, more affordable, cheaper. They don't equate, they'd rather save $50 and save 5 minutes than invest a little more in their time and money to get a better product. So that's a big challenge we're encountering right now. What am I doing to overcome these challenges and these obstacles? One thing we did was with our last location is we got into a more affluent area. We got into an area that was more convenient, and we got into an area that was strategically organized. So we are in a building with jiu-jitsu, boxing, MMA, wrestling, and now it's a convenience thing. So, for example, you wrestled at one club. If we were in that club, you'd be able to wrestle and lift. Boom, get it all done in one shot instead of driving all around. Some parents legitimately can't do it. They've got too many kids and not enough time in the day or not enough people to help them out. The other thing is I've spoken with a lot of coaches. I know coaches that are training players to get to the NFL Combine, and they can't even give away a program to train high school athletes. I know coaches that were Division I athletes that spent time coaching in the NFL. They went the private route, opened their own facility. They can't even get an email response back from a high school football coach. These are coaches that coached in the NFL, and then they opened up private facility and can't even train boys. This facility has about 75% girls are field hockey and lacrosse and soccer girls. So think about that. There's a very big disconnect in us trying to make the communication with the high schools. And this goes back to rule number 1. The kids are number 1. Not to be a dick or to sound arrogant, but if you're better at the strength and performance aspect, then by all means let the kids stay at school. But they're not. We get kids that are training at a high school that don't know how to properly bodyweight squat, let alone put a bar on their back, let alone do a 1 rep max. We get kids that when they bench, when they get tired, they're turning their head, they're going halfway down, they're bridging. Kids don't know how to train, and they're coming from schools where their coaches actually threaten them and say, if you train at the underground, you're out. You are not on this team. You will not play for this team. So I think what we need to do, or what I need to do, is find a way to get in front of the influencers, which are the parents, who say, listen, we want what's best for our kids, and we want to bring an expert into the school. So I think the way is I need to probably expand my team, which I don't want to do, put coaches into the schools, and train them like that. So one of these, what have you done to overcome these challenges? Oftentimes I think about saying, you know what? The headaches are just not worth it. They're not worth it. But then you have that one kid, that 10 kids, 40 kids, 60 kids who make it worth it, and then you end up pushing. Being a strength coach is a very unforgiving job because There's a lot of fakers and pretenders out there, and there's just a lot of people that don't support what you do. So hope that helps you out, Brett Donner. 3 books you got to get: Winners Never Cheat, Even During Difficult Times, Turning Pro, and Rogue Warrior, Leadership Secrets of the Rogue Warrior. That's it. Peace out.